7 o'clock. Anything on the minutes, edits?
I'll approve the minutes as printed.
I'll second it.
Motion and second to approve the minutes. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Rich, vouchers.
We got the oil and filter for the zero-turn mower. Cleaning supplies for the terminal here, toiletries and whatnot. We've got work on our annual work on the Chevy plow truck. In the city garage. And then, same thing, our annual on the New Holland tractor at the city garage. And a few contract hours.
That's all there is, huh?
That's it?
Oh, God. Well, in that case, I motion to pay the vouchers.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions, considerations on the vouchers? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I have one question on the budget. Looking at the electric and natural gas and then the cleaning of the terminal, we're a little bit over budget. Is that just because of the long winter?
The cleaning of the
I think they raised it, didn't they, Rich?
budget they raised and backdated a few months because they were waiting. As far as the electric and natural gas, I don't see those invoices, so I couldn't tell you.
Okay. I just see we're, 73% where we should be at 50. That's what I was just concerned.
Yeah, I think the price was raised this year.
Well, natural gas and everything went up.
They didn't have that reflected in the proposed budget.
In the proposed budget? All right. I just had a question on it, so I just,
I would point out that the budget overall is at 52.67%, so we're 2.6% over budget. If you look at the middle of the month, 6 months. So, but I think we're in pretty good shape so far. All right, item 4, 1634. Really nothing new again. We've queried FAA, I've queried AOPA, Kyle Lewis. Everybody's watching the Reauthorization Act, which was approved by the Congress, the House, went to the Senate, and then it got kicked back or something with amendments. So they've been doing amendments the last couple of days, so they have to go back to the Senate again.
Several items were lost in markup today and yesterday too.
Carl and I have been having contacts back and forth, and also Kyle Lewis from AOPA about where we're at. It was funny because Andy Trimble called me the other day and he said, "Hey Gary, what's going on with Brunswick?" I said, "Well, Andy, you're the engineer, if you're over aeronautics." "Well, you've been contacting FAA." I said, "Yeah, I got my ass handed to me the last time I did." "Oh yeah, that's right." So, anyway, I'm going to pass these around. In the reauthorization bill that's standing now, there is language about crosswind runways, but it's a little nebulous because basically it's saying that if the crosswind runway is approved in your ALP, which ours is, then it's golden. But then you still got to qualify for what the FAA said you got to qualify for. So we go right back to the crosswind runway thing, the crosswinds. But at least they're acknowledging now that if you have one, you have one, it's yours. All it has to do is qualify. So it's a little stronger than it has been. So that's all that's new there. Item 5, nothing new there. Excuse me. Well, we got the apron done over here. We're still doing follow-up work around the T-hanger, and then the same thing over here. Rich, you know what that's gonna be?
No, I don't. Matter of fact, I'd asked though, when we were gonna get paint and when they were gonna finish the landscaping work, and it's yet to be determined. I haven't gotten the date yet.
Farmer returning for the rest of their job, for the seal coating.
It's the same thing. I asked about that as well, and they don't have a date yet. As soon as they find one, and all, they're gonna let me know, so. They were waiting for this to set up, and I thought that was done in 10 days or whatever, and then they were gonna seal coat. They wanted to come back and seal coat everything that they had missed. So-
Yeah, well, quite a bit to do yet.
Not
Not a lot, but
yeah.
quite a bit.
Yeah,
So they'll be coating the new stuff too,
correct. Yeah.
to seal up the new stuff. It's kind of an experiment to see if that'll.
So they wanted it
keep
to
it
sit
going.
for a certain amount of time.
So all the new blacktop will be coated right away. By chance, I was out here one afternoon about a week ago, and it just started to drizzle. And so the ground was wet, but it hadn't really been raining. I took a picture of each side of the T over there because I was impressed. The water is coming off the roof in that little bit of amount of water, and it's moved across the taxiway about halfway across already. So it's draining. I'll pass that around. It's a picture of each side of the T-hanger.
We've been using the area, and we've had a number of flights out of the west side of the T-hangers. The extra 8 or 10 feet has been really helpful. That was always extremely tight, especially in winter. That's helpful. The slope, I was concerned about that it may be hard with the push the airplane up. That has proved to be a non-issue. It's probably a little easier than it was previously.
Yeah, before it
So
was
both
heaved.
of those are good.
It was heaved before, and then it went back down to get in the hangars.
Yeah, and then we have that final, oh, it's hard to push up. You know, I'd have to call someone, Bev couldn't do it alone, I couldn't do it alone. We'd have to have 2 people. Now the 2 of us, and you know, we're approaching 80 here, but we pushed the archer in with no problem. So the slopes are good, looks like the drainage is better. Now, it's just gonna be a matter of what happens in spring with water coming up inside, to see what happens with
I
that.
don't know if you all noticed, they found, what I was told were aircraft tie downs on the north side of the T over there, and they're huge. You saw them up there, Joe?
Yeah, I did.
Those were,
Big cement,
They're like this big around on top.
yeah, they've been there ever since I've been here. I asked about those once. I asked John Miller. And I thought he said they were some kind of a marker point that they pulled off when they did the runway extension, something like that. I don't remember what. But
Pretty
because I said,
substantial.
what are they? Can we get rid of them?
Yeah.
And he said those were put there when they did the runway extension. So I don't know where they came from.
No,
What is this? I'm sorry, I'm missing that.
On the north side of the T, there's those big
Yes.
blocks.
Concrete.
And yeah, they're concrete blocks. They're square.
Oh,
They've been there since I.
They were markers for something
That's
at
what
one
I
point,
remember.
and they
They
just
were
got thrown
markers.
over there.
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, they're gonna get hauled out.
We need a good cleanup. It's time, we're out of the SRE building around, we could use a good cleanup there.
Yeah, there's some of that rock got pushed out into the lawn there too.
Well, I've got 'em- we're taking the lawn out on the north side.
Oh,
Where the
yeah.
grass was there,
Yeah.
that's all gonna be gravel.
Okay.
It'll be
Yeah.
easier to maintain than not.
Yeah, just so we aren't hitting the stones with the lawnmower, throwing them into the buildings and stuff.
But it'll be the DOT road base where it's fractured, so it'll hold together.
Yeah, yeah, minor stuff. Yeah, this is that big stuff that they put in the bottom right around the tile there.
Yeah,
I think
their
that
plan
was-
is to come in and clean that up.
On the west side of the T there, I believe that was the second oldest piece of blacktop we had left. The only one that was older than that was the crosswind runway. I think that was done in about 81 or 83. Okay. Discussion of the RFP process, I think that's dead. I'll probably take it off next time. It's not going anywhere. Joe, airport signage, item 7.
Just waiting on them to finish the sign, and then I got everything, the permit is in. It's staked out where we can go, so we just gotta move forward on that and the big sign. And once we get that in, I can worry about all the other little stuff. I wanna get the big one done first before I move on to anything else.
When will the sign actually be made?
They're actually in the process of making it right now. So it should be done any day, because she called me about 3 weeks ago when we wanted the 4-inch posts, and I added 2 feet to them because of the ground and the road elevation, so that we could bring the sign up just a little bit higher. And they were in the process of cutting all that.
When you were out there, did you eyeball where the arrows are pointing? It all looked like it was gonna work?
Yeah.
Good. Good deal. Any questions on it? Airport, with 84? Rich?
I reached out to Al and Hughes to see what it would take to get the ball rolling, and what was needed from us so that it could be retrieved, since it looks like we're going down that road. And he's deployed right now, so he's gonna get back to me when he gets back.
That contract would be in the attorney's office.
And I have a copy as well, so.
Which general maintenance?
So far, so good. We got some lights that we got to take care of on the end. I've got RTL putting us in their schedule for the runway end lights. I've got one out, and then they're staying on all the time. So we need them to not stay on all the time. But other than that, it's typical lights that we've been complaining about for
We
a
have 3
while.
working now and 1 out.
Correct. I've got one out.
The
On
2 on
seven.
the east end are not working again,
They are.
but they're tied into the 24-hour.
No, those 2 are working just fine. When you call them up, it's the 7 that are staying on 24/7.
7.
Yeah, only one of them.
West end,
anyway.
only one doesn't work.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So, and I have the light. They're gonna put the light in, but I wanted them to get it to when the lights call up only instead of staying on all the time. That's not it's a hazard for
I don't know how many years we've had all the lights on 1634 because of that, you know.
several.
Several, it's been going on 8, 9 years.
Yeah.
We just decided after spending 5, 6, 7,000 twice, we just weren't gonna fight it anymore. We can't keep them up, so just turn them on all day, they
So we
will
leave-
respond to.
Yeah, we leave
us,
them at
you know, on
30%.
signals and things.
Yeah, they're on at 30%.
They were part of the approved runway replacement back when the FAA got old. It had been approved at DOA.
For the 1634 project, yeah.
It was approved laid on the engineers, the director of engineering on his desk when he retired.
Oh, yes,
A
okay.
new guy came in and he had too much paperwork and he shipped it off to the FAA in Chicago. And that's where we've been ever since.
Mowing equipment's going, no issues there. We had them serviced. They're working pretty good now, so. Other than that, not much. I did hand over some lighting. The light above your hangar, the ones in the building here in the vestibules, I handed that all over to RTL. I said, get them up and running. I don't care what the issue is, and the same one out in the parking lot.
By the beacon?
Correct.
The
That one as
LED
well.
light on the beacon
Yep.
tower, the security light?
Yep.
That failed about a month ago.
Yeah, it did. So
We have the identical one up on the north gate, it's been fine.
it's been great.
Yeah.
And same thing with the one above the FBO. One doesn't
Yeah,
seem
that
to be
one's
an issue.
been fine too, this one failed.
So, they're gonna come in and I wanted to take care of all the lights prior to looking at them. So, that's all I got.
Now, RTL, do we have a city electrician
We do, matter of fact,
and a
we
city
did.
carpenter?
So, thanks for reminding me. We actually did put that up to the city electrician to see if he's interested in tackling all the lights. He sounded like he might not want to touch the rail lights. And I
Oh, yeah.
said, there's a
Yeah.
number on there. I said,
Yeah.
they're very easy to work with. It's a free 1-800 number. It's right on the lights. I said, I've worked with him a few times. I said, but it's past my ordeal now. I said, it needs an actual electrician. So we were waiting to find out if that's something he was interested in. If it's not, then RTO was going to come in. So yes, we
What about
did.
your door in the rear of the maintenance building we've been looking at for 4 or 5 years? What do we have a city carpenter for?
We could ask him. Teddy did come in and take measurements for the door
Well,
2
it's
weeks
not getting
ago.
done, year after
No,
year
it's
after
not.
year, it's bullshit.
No, I don't know. That was in his hands, and that's where I left it. So, I'm hoping it happens before the snow flies, but I'm not counting on it.
Probably the only thing we could do is tell them we need a date, you know, let it,
Yeah.
you know, it's got to work us in there sometime.
And I think
Or we're gonna move on.
he'd be pretty pleased if somebody else were to do it.
Yeah,
So I could talk to
probably.
the
Yeah.
city and see if that's something they wanted to do. I'm sure he'd hand it over without complaining. So I'll talk to him.
Something on the sewer here too? Any update on that?
They came in and took measurements today for the house.
Okay.
And then they're hoping for the first week of August. They've got WPS coming in to do markings next week.
Okay.
So,
Okay, good. Chairman's report, I have a couple of things. I have a meeting scheduled with BOA on the 14th of August. It'll be with David Green, the head of the Bureau, Mark Gracievich, the head of the financing, Andy Trimble, our guy, and Matt Malecki, Andy's boss. And I posed the meeting, they wanted to know what I wanted to talk about. And I said, we're going to talk about the future of the Merrill Airport. Because we have to get some stuff done here. We need a maintenance hangar, we need a T hangar, and we need to get this runway done out here. This airport, it's not going to grow. So that's what I'll be visiting with them about. I got a letter, actually Rich passed it on to me, a company called Orgis
Origin?
wants to do solar panels out here. And I think Rich had the same notion I did when I saw that.
Yeah.
But maybe we should look at it, I don't know. They work with airports all over the country, and they tie them back into the local utility, WPS, for getting money for the power that they're providing. I'm not sure how the city would feel about it, I'm not sure how we would feel about it, but I thought we'd look into it and get some information that we can talk about.
And it is revenue back to the airport.
Yeah.
So, I brought that up and mentioned it about 5 years ago. I've seen it now at a number of airports. I don't know if it's successful, if it's worth it or not, but it would appear to me it would be certainly worth looking into.
Yeah, they'd come out, do a survey to see where they could get away with putting them, and go from there.
It's also less land you have to maintain and mow.
Exactly.
Less brush cutting they take that's gone, it's on the
Yeah.
panels.
Yeah.
If we put it in the swamps, it'd be great.
Oh, it would.
Cover them babies right up.
Well, I was thinking about this, like you said, this
some of the
this
wild-
walk down here.
Sure.
You could go there, you could go up on the hill too.
Yeah, the hill would be.
The hill would actually probably be better,
Yeah, it's completely right away.
because that wouldn't interfere with any visibility or anything.
Okay, I contacted BOA about the AWAS. Gary told me it wasn't broadcasting very far.
It was pretty broken up at 5 miles.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so-
Have they been up and looked at it at all?
Well, they came for the annual inspection, and I had mentioned it to them,
When was this? Rick?
and this was 3 weeks ago. And he said it was working fine. I says, yeah, right here. I says, but when you get about 5 to 7 miles away, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So they were looking into it, and I haven't heard anything since.
Mm.
So,
We've flown from the south on Sunday, we flew from the northeast yesterday, we flew from the west coming in.
sure.
The best I can get is 5 to 12 from the west and up to 15 to 20 from the south now. Almost 5 from the east and not very much from the northeast, maybe 10 or 15. That used to reach out 65 miles.
Yeah.
If we were at altitude coming from Minneapolis, we picked up the Merrill AWA 65 miles out. Now it's 12.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something wrong. And it almost seems like an antenna, it's just not reaching out.
Yeah.
You know, if I open a
Correct.
squelch on our comms, I can start to get it a few files more, but there's an awful lot of hash. It
Yeah.
seems to be antenna related, ground related or
It's gonna be a
something.
loose wire.
I don't think it's, I don't think it's a
not
huge problem.
It's not a
I think
wire.
it's
went out
something
there and
simple,
looked.
yeah.
Yeah, I went and checked. I did get a call, so I was gonna contact DPT. There is an update, and I don't know if it's through DPT or the state, or if it was a third party that was contacting me. But there is an update on a new antenna. They want to know what model, and I have to get it to them. So I'll do that this week.
That might help.
To see if that's an
It's just-
issue
It's
or
an odd
not.
situation.
Yeah, it
But
is.
we're at a third or a fourth of what we used to reach out.
Oh,
to.
yeah, you can't get
And
it.
a good one now, and Eagle River's out now, they lost their AWAS, they're out
Yeah.
too. They're waiting they have nothing up there. Yesterday we got a manual transmission in about the runway being closed due to the airplane accident on the north end up at Eagle River. We were inbound there and they announced that the runway was closed, but they don't have any AWACS going at all right now.
Real quick, I didn't get to bring a copy, I'll email it to you guys. We had our FAA, the FAA actually showed up, it's been 3 years, to do our annual inspection on the field here, obstructions. So they pointed out the same ones that we had before, and then a few more. A few I can go and cut myself, and I told them I would, but I said I'm not doing it until the ground freezes, because I'm not walking in a ball until it's frozen. He said he's fine with that, so I will send the report out via email. I just got it in, so I didn't get a chance to.
Saplings at 2.5.
What's that?
They talked about saplings at 2.5.
Yeah, it's on that easement that we've got back there, and then approaching. He did send photos, so I'll send them out to you guys.
Is it across
Across the
Cup Road
street.
East down there on the approach
Yeah.
to 2.5?
Yeah.
I've been noticing that lately, it's
Yeah.
coming up.
It is coming
And
up.
I noticed, on the approaches, it's getting closer underneath us.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing like the approach to 3-4, but
Sure.
it is definitely coming up and you have to start watching it.
Okay, the only other thing I'm working on is we have an issue with 2 hangars that are behind in their monthly rent, the T's. So we're trying to get that straightened out, figure out when they actually got in there.
Gary, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Sorry.
Hangar 4 and Hangar 7 are behind on their rent and haven't signed a lease yet. So I've been working with Tom Hayden and Krista down there to get that straightened out.
Who's presently in those two?
Greg Hannig and Ed Livingston. And in all fairness to them, they have been asking where their leases are. And I have given the info to the city, and where it got dropped, I don't know. So they're not deliberately not paying. They're waiting.
just
get
waiting to get a
leases.
lease.
Correct. So,
Okay.
Well, there's been 3 leases sent to one of them.
oh, okay, see, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay, it isn't a question of not
Okay.
signing leases, it's not getting a hold of them. Okay.
Okay, Gary, Aviation Happenings.
Over here, okay. Normally I would.
I got one question.
Go ahead.
Gary, when somebody does default on their rent, what's the steps to rectifying that issue or problem?
That's one more, keep you-
What's the process of taking care of somebody who does not pay their lease? Do
It's
you-
laid out in the lease.
That's part of the problem. We don't have a written policy. And that's something that we've
It's
talked
always
about.
been a sort of a gentleman's kind
Yeah.
of.
So far, it hasn't been an issue. You tell them, oh, sorry about that. They take care of it, and it's a non-issue.
Because we do have a waiting list, right?
Yeah,
19 or
and
whatever.
I'm glad you brought it up, because I was going to suggest, we've had the T-hanger lease on here a couple of times to talk about, and we haven't done it yet. But I'm going to suggest, so you can think about it, that we'll have a policy that won't allow the aircraft to go into the hangar until the lease is signed and the down payments will be paid.
Yeah.
In both cases, both cases were switches from the previous occupant to the one that's in there now, and the paperwork didn't get done. They just went in there. So I would propose that we have a policy like that. Gary?
Normally I just kind of bypass unless there's something important, shorten the meeting. But there are a couple things that are interesting. This month, on Monday, United 767-300 was going into Chicago. You probably heard this. It lost its emergency slide about 4 miles out on final approach, and it dropped it into somebody's backyard. And the police were called, and then the FAA, they retrieved it and returned it to Chicago to ORD. That's pretty unusual, but they I don't know how they lost a slide off the airplane 4 miles out on the final approach into Chicago, but it happened. And that the FAA has issued an advisory circular, and this is FAA saying we would like you to do this, but we're not making an FAR, Federal Air Regulation. And they did it concerning straight-in approaches at non-towered airports, which would be our airport, when there are aircraft in the pattern, flying an established pattern. And there's always been conflict on this, because here someone says, I'm on a 10-mile final into runway 25 at Merrill, And now if you have someone in the pattern, there comes a point where they're doing the legitimate pattern that's recommended, they're gonna turn their base turn towards that incoming airplane, and then they're gonna turn final and land. Now, they've always had the right of way technically, but this has been an issue for quite some time about people doing this and not. The FAA's issued an official circular now saying, you know, we're not outlawing, it's saying you can't do straight-in approaches. But if you're at a non-tower field and there's airplanes working the pattern, then it's up to you to conform to the pattern. And there's an awful lot of people that haven't read the circular yet, and we've had instances here. We had one this past week at Tomahawk during training with Steve and one of his students up there with an individual that has actually done this before and did it to our son here on his initial solo. 3 landings on runway 25 here, came in straight in from the north, cut him off, sent him around, and man, there's nothing more delicate than your first solo. Everything's got to go and everybody cooperates. So this is a good circular, but people have to start reading it, and we have to start talking about it more, I think, and see if we can get some of this
That'd be a good
in
one to
compliance.
bring up.
Yeah. Another part of that was that they said, we want you to continue to do what you've always done. Traditionally, your first call is Piper Archer, 2869 Alpha. We're entering left downwind runway 25 Merrill. You don't say yellow and blue Archer entering left downwind 25 Merrill. However, when you go to Oshkosh, all you hear is yellow Kit Fox, blue Cessna. So that really has started something here. And another one that people have picked up on, they say, experimental, 3 miles south of Merrill, entering left downwind for 25. That's great, but you don't know if that experimental cruises at 80 or 400 or 250 below 10,000. You don't know what their speed is. So it's not telling you enough. So they're saying, do this traditionally the right way. The second call, Archer, 69 Alpha, left downwind, 25 Merrill. Now I know as Larry got into always doing yellow Kit Fox. Now he's gone to doing his proper N number and then saying yellow Kit Fox and blah, 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 blah. That's okay. That's okay, because it is easier to see a yellow, you know what you're looking for out there, that helps. But the circular is trying to straighten some of that out. Don't use experimental. And they said, for God's sakes, don't say any other traffic in the area, please advise. That's been out for years, but they did repeat that. So this is an interesting circular. I hope it gets a little more attention and broadcasting among pilots, and it's up to us to kind of mention these at our safety seminars and our meetings and things.
Even at the chapter meeting, you can bring it up there.
Correct.
We
It'd
usually
be a
have
real
safety,
good thing to discuss in a chapter
safety.
meeting. We've been without an FAA administrator now for several years, and that agency's definitely been adrift, and a number of things have come out of it from entrenched bureaucrats in the FAA who really aren't pilots, and they've created a lot of issues for pilots. The idea that you can't instruct in home builds and experimental aircraft for money, so you can't get a checkout on your airplane, you can't get a biannual. This was foolishness. And when you go to the FSDO in Milwaukee and get a letter of deviation authority so you can do it, that's silly. This is one of the things that's being addressed now in the new legislation, and they're getting rid of this. But we've been adrift without an administrator that these things shouldn't even happen. And we have now a new potential nominee. We lost Washington recently, he backed out. Mike Whitaker is now considered as a FAA administrator nominee from the Biden administration. I think he's probably has some serious potential for being a decent administrator. He presently, I think, works for HondaJet in their eVTOL, Electric Vertical Takeoff and Landing Division, as CEO of that. So here we have an aviation individual. So we can see and follow what happens to Mike Whitaker here with a nomination as FAA administrator. We lost Nolan recently, who was he was going to be, and he pulled out and said, "I need more time with my family. I'm done." You know, so he didn't take it. And the FAA this morning announced 2 new grant programs, money out there grants, to encourage training for pilots, NASA individuals, and technical maintenance individuals. This is money that's going to be out there for grants. We're starting to realize that without mechanics, we don't have general aviation. Without parts, without mechanics, we're not going to keep airplanes flying. So there's grant programs already out there. They're known as workforce development programs, just coming out, just announced this morning. There will be money available. It's very interesting, and this would be something here that perhaps the technical school could be interested in getting a hold of money. It'd be great. We were talking recently with several people in aviation, and down at Janesville, I don't know where you didn't go to school at Janesville.
No.
But that technically, classes of mechanics at Janesville, a small class was 25, average class was 32, a busy class was 40 or 42, 38, 42, over the last 20, 25 years. The present classes of mechanics down there are 6 and 8 individuals. Without mechanics, general aviation on our level is in serious problem. And you can give all the young eagle rides you want, but if you don't have an airplane that you can get parts for and have somebody there maintaining it, and the airport that has maintenance is going to grow and thrive and build operations and develop, they're going to move forward because they're going to be so few. And it's going to take us 10 years to hopefully move past this and get back to where we were. This is going to happen overnight. This is a serious issue. So I'm happy to see these grants. I hope technical schools see them also and think about it. Merrill will be a perfect place to have a new technical school for mechanic training. And it's been talked about in the past, but nothing's happened. So I'm just bringing it up here. Maybe someone can pass the word, maybe it gets to them. The final thing I'm going to mention tonight, Garmin came out with a new instrument, which they always do. It's called the GAS, Garmin Altitude Height GAH 315. It's basically a radar altimeter for smaller aircraft at a price of around $2,000. That used to be a $20,000 item. Well, if you're flying serious instruments, that's nice. Because on approach, it can help you get down to minimums at 200 feet or 250, not violate it and get dangerous and go around. But for the average guy putting in his airplane flying out there, it starts at 500 feet and it bounces multiples per second, radar beams down and back up to your airplane, your height. And that's fine, but to me, if you're flying VFR, it's kind of useless because you don't belong down there at 500 feet. And if you're approaching Rim Mountain, you approach it, you're not going to have time and ability to climb over it when suddenly you go from 500 feet to 0, as you would hit the mountain. That isn't going to help much. But for people on approach, but my main thing is this: we're getting so many electronic aids, ADSBN, traffic shows on my screen, that we aren't looking outside the cockpits anymore. This has got to be stressed. It's got to be stressed. We're concentrating on all this magnificent glass screens and all the traffic and everything they can do, and the 3D and the simulated 3D, but we're not looking out the airplane, and that's so critical for the type of flying the majority of us do. You have to see your other traffic out there. And so I want, another thing at these meetings to stress that we have with our local EAA is that we've got to keep looking outside. That's where the real world is, that's where the traffic is. And for all this great stuff we can put in the airplane, don't get buried in it. Keep your eyes out there.
Yeah, because a Cub or even mine don't have ADSB out, so you don't see me and other people.
We have monorail traffic alert in the new Cherokee Archer, which was an earlier type of traffic alert, but it picks up the transponders. So we were seeing the Ram 6 last night. We're seeing you as traffic out there, even though you don't have ADSB out, but we all see the ADSB out. But so that helps. But that's an older type of unit just based on transponder that's in your area. There's a lot of Cubs flying out there. They don't have a transponder. They may not even have a radio, though there's hardly an excuse for not having a handheld these days. I mean, you don't technically need one, but very few people out there in Cubs or anything or champs don't have a handheld. But it all helps. But again, eyes outside. That's where the traffic is. So that's me tonight. I'm done.
Thank you. Joe, EAA Cup Race.
Everything's a go. I got some of the stuff for what they need in my hangar. If the weather holds Sunday, they'll be up here running. I got a letter to Photo News with stating what's going on, so that should be in tomorrow's paper. I got that to Tina, so that's all set up. I did send one to J&T today as an announcement, you know, put in there so they're aware of it. And then I did talk to one of the firefighters today and said, just so you guys are aware, he was on duty this weekend. I says, hey, if you guys want to come up with the ambulance just in case, you know, and just snoop around for a few minutes. So they're aware of that. He was going to talk to Corey with the police department, so that way everybody kind of knows what's going on.
Probably worth calling to Lincoln County also.
Yeah, that's one thing I didn't do yet.
Yeah, MPD and county.
Yeah, if you want to do that tomorrow, then that would be it, but that way they're all aware of that. So basically, we're all set up, ready to go. Like I said, I've got some of the stuff that they need in my hangar, and I'm just going to be here. It'll be an all-day event. I figured we had a lot of traffic last year. I'll probably do traffic control, because once I get them set up, they do their own thing. And then I'll have the gate open and kind of let people come in, and I'll let them line up along the building so they can actually sit there and watch, is kind of what my game plan is. You know, open it up to the public a little bit so that if they want to see, as long as I'm there walking around, it's not going to be a big deal.
What time's that at?
Steve,
It's supposed to start like at
9:30, they're not even gonna set up till 1. He said he was gonna get here at 9. And then
yeah, well,
open
it's an hour
9:30.
course.
Yeah.
Well, the first planes take about an hour to fly the 400-mile course because they're flying 400 miles an hour. So they're going to get here at 9, and the first planes will start coming through around 10 or a little after.
He's hoping. He says 9:30 it should be buzzing through.
Yeah.
If they don't get a delay.
Yeah, and then it'll be all afternoon. They had 70 some planes, depending on how many drop off.
79 so far.
79?
79.
What'd you have last year, Joe, do you remember?
I thought.
It was less.
Yeah, it was. I
It
think
was
what
less.
fished
I'm
on
just
once it
curious.
was, you know, maintenance issues and whatever
Sunday.
have you. I think they had 64 last
Yeah,
year.
and they range anywhere from 400 miles an hour down to 100 to 80 miles an hour, I guess.
Yeah, a little lower.
Because there's a couple that come in that route, but, so just be aware of that. Like I say, it's all set up, ready to go. So,
we've done this for a number of years, and people get excited about what's going on, why is that plane going so fast and so low, so that's why we try to.
well, they come in from the north, and then they cross 1634, and their minimum altitude is 500 feet. So what they do is they come in diving from the north to gain airspeed, then they come across the runway, and then they pull up over the city.
Okay.
So everybody hears it. They recover the aircraft in Wausau, so they got a chance to run and cool down, because they don't want airplanes landing when there's airplanes flying through for the race. So they recover them, but that gives them a chance to cool down because they're running pretty hot.
Some of them do that.
Some of them land here for fuel, but then what we do is we circle them out, and then they come in this way.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, if you have a press release, get it to me and I'll get it to our social media person, and she can put it on our city webpage and she can put it on our city Facebook page.
That'd be good.
And it's
Put in your
one thing
email,
we
because I
gotta,
can forward it to you.
one
I
thing
have
to
it all
keep in
released.
mind is you can't advertise it as a spectator deal.
No,
Because that completely, with bringing people in, they've got to be 1,500 feet off the center line of the runway. And then they bump it to, what was it, 1,000 feet?
1,000 feet.
And yeah, it turned into a whole fiasco, so.
But Joe you can word it appropriately,
Correct.
like that,
Mhm.
and
Well-
still make it a press release.
Public
Yeah.
awareness.
It's just public awareness. It's
Right.
basically, it's
Right.
public awareness so that they know what's going on, because
Mhm.
every year we've done this,
Get
the
calls.
city gets calls from the police department, what low-flying airplanes, what's going on, what's going on. It's more of a press release so people understand what's going on.
Correct.
But I mean, that's what I mean, if you give it to me, I can get it
Yeah,
and get it out there.
yeah.
That will help.
So, but basically that's what I did, just so people are aware of what's going on for noise.
Okay.
Because it's the noise, because some of them are pretty loud.
Thanks, Joe. Public comment? Agenda items for the next meeting?
The lease will be the big thing to put back on the agenda, the lease.
Lease agreement terms?
Lease agreement terms and regulations. We had started it at one time, but we never finished it. We just need to get that one going again.
Item 15, closed session. Joe, read that for us.
The committee may convene in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 198.85 1E for deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds or conducting other specified public business wherever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session to consider an offer or potential sale/purchase agreement of airport property.
Okay, and I will ask for a motion, and then I'll ask for a per person vote, so that I have that record.
A motion that this
19.85.
commission goes into closed session
Just,
for those reasons.
That's how it works.
yeah, it's 19.85.
I would second that.
Okay, motion and second to go into closed session. Wow, what's your vote?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm for it.
Gary?
I'm
You
waiting
for
for
it?
the result.
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
And I vote aye.
Okay.
Unanimous vote to go into closed session. We are in closed session.